The environmental crisis we face today is not a new development in human history. It's the culmination of something that's been going on for centuries. It's just that our technology makes it happen faster now.
I mean, the way I think of restoration is cleaning up our mess.
It's very difficult to resolve conflicts if nobody's talking to each other.
The Highlands of Scotland are described as ecologically devastated as a wet desert.
Restoration happens in a given place, but there are many stakeholders with contending views.
We need to have wolves on the landscape.
Take a piece of paper, crumple it up, and that is what the landscape of Oaxaca looks like.
We have to take a long view of things in the past and understand how landscapes change, but not only landscapes, but human attitudes.
This has been a conference where experts on restoration have spoken about many aspects of their work. Restoring forests in Scotland, restoring wolves to the northeast of the United States.
In Europe, they're primarily cultural landscapes that are being restored.
So in Scotland, the history of man dramatically changing their landscape dates back to between 2,500 and 6,000 years ago. The Highlands of Scotland are described as ecologically devastated as a wet desert. So for a lot of people, it's become sort of the last option. What should we do now? How can we restore our landscape so that we can actually benefit from it in the long run?
I think that every environmental insight has been a reaction to a dreadful error.
Now, if you go to other parts of the world where people have been working with, indigenous peoples have been working for hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of years in a landscape, you've got this huge history of practice.
Mexico is considered to be the fourth most biodiverse in the world. Oaxaca, as just one state, has the most biodiversity in Mexico. Take a piece of paper, crumple it up, and that is what the landscape of Oaxaca looks like. Because it's very broken, it's very rugged, and what that creates are many microclimates, many micro ecosystems, as well as many micro-scale cultures. These people have been living here for thousands of years in these landscapes. They are not going to leave them. They own them. And so in order for any conservation initiative to take place, it has to be on their terms. It's a mixture of common sense with traditional knowledge that their culture maintains about how natural systems work. And it's a mixture with science. There are scientists working with them who bring GIS systems in order to understand the bigger picture of this landscape.
In the United States, restoration is focused on restoring to wilderness.
Yellowstone was completely rejuvenated with the reintroduction of the wolf.
Northern Maine, Western Maine, Northern New Hampshire have millions of acres available for wolf habitat.
Wolves keep the whole ecosystem healthy.
What that means for us is that we have to learn how to live with wolves and accept their presence in the landscape and share space with them. And for the last couple of hundred years in North America and for the last couple of thousand years in Europe, we've been unable to do that.
The restoration thesis, the idea that we could restore any damaged area, could be misused by developers or despoilers of nature to justify what they're doing.
Whenever you do any kind of environmental work, it's inevitable that there are going to be many different perspectives.
Well, I moved from looking at the motivation because I soon realized that the social and economic systems dominate motivations.
We were working with people, and we're working with people that have lived in different situations, have been raised with different value sets, have had different educational backgrounds, have had different experiences in the natural world.
So to do good restoration requires input from economists, and sociologists, and psychologists, philosophers, and of course ecologists, and a whole host of people who glue that stuff together.
Let's see, where are we today? We are kind of in a big mess, aren't we? We have rising oceans, we have unstable climate, we have loss of species.
Well, I think what's important about restoration is people acknowledge the damage that they've caused to the earth, and they're trying to fix it, trying to heal it.
Probably the most exciting part of my job is working with young people and seeing where their interests are taking them. And they are coming into their understanding of environmentalism as with a fabulously positive attitudes. And they think, well, let's just get to work. Let's figure out how to design buildings so they don't create so much impact. Let's figure out how to take care of ecosystems. Let's talk about sustainable forestry. Let's talk about sustainable community development. Let's talk about peace as a part of taking care of environments. Let's talk about organic farming. In their minds, all these things are extremely possible because there are already living, working examples of them, and they're making a beeline right towards the things that are working and that seem to carry a beacon of hope for the future.
Freeman House, who lives in Northern California, has written a beautiful book called Totem Salmon, in which he documents grassroots restoration initiatives where they discovered that to restore salmon meant to reduce the amount of siltation in the streams where the salmon were spawning. But to reduce siltation meant changing logging practices. Changing logging practices meant changing the regional economy. And changing the regional economy meant changing the social structures. So restoration is ultimately this full circle about really dramatic cultural and social change that's necessary, and economic change, to make things work again.
Where are we in our journey of restoration? I think we're picking up speed and we're gathering momentum. The environmental problems of the world are accelerating and the response is accelerating, and I think restoration is becoming a deeper, more effective, more accepted science.
I think that if you look around the country and you look at the amount of activity, everything from the Everglades to restoring old-growth forests in the Pacific Northwest to restoring fire-dependent prairie and desert ecosystems in the Southwest, there is just a tremendous amount of activity.
But it's vital that people develop a connection with place through restoration. And that seems to be the one common successful ingredient in good restoration projects.